Hey,
What's up?
not much. It was just my birthday.
Oh, yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you very much. And my mother bought me Ancestry DNA or whatever. I spit in that too.
Oh, yeah, you spit in a box, yeah?
Sent it off, yeah.
Anything
6
back
weeks.
yet?
6 weeks. Gotta wait 6 weeks.
Really? 6 weeks?
Yeah, right?
I feel like Ancestry.com's been around for a long time. I feel like they could turn that around in 24 hours.
Yeah. You know, I was just watching shouts out to my man's, what is it, Company Man, I think?
Okay.
The YouTube channel where the guy does the rise and fall of different companies and stuff.
Okay.
He was talking about 23andMe being one of the first to offer that service and whatnot, and apparently it's actually not cost effective. It's super expensive and they don't make money on it, and specifically 23andMe is definitely going under.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're having a hard time figuring out how to make money, because initially when the service came out it was like a fucking grand to do it. Mm-hmm. And shit's gotten a little bit more affordable. It's like $100, but even at $100, that is not even break even to what they're charging. What they were trying to make money on was hey, we'll give that to it at a loss, and then we have all these subscriptions that people want to pay for. You know what I'm saying? That was their idea, was that we'll hook them with that, and then we'll have them with that RMR, that recurring monthly revenue. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But what happened is everybody gets that quick pop of your DNA shit, and they're like, I don't want to pay for all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So they've been losing money because nobody subscribes.
Definitely a conspiracy theory. But I heard someone offhandedly mention once, why would you send your genetic makeup to a company?
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to do with that?
Yeah.
And so, in the back of my mind, every time I hear that, I'm just like, well, yeah, they're selling that to the government, man. But also, what is it? The government can get your spit if they want your spit,
Absolutely. Yeah, I think more so it's and there's also the conspiracy theory that eventually, your health insurance would get a hold of it, and then your premiums would go up or something, whatever. But I think really what they do is they sell that genetic data for research purposes.
Okay.
That's how you make money. I mean,
yeah.
Yes, I'm sure there's a million people who, if a million people listen to this podcast, would listen, they'd have the same thing where they're like, pah, you cuck, you believe that? But yeah, I don't know what advantage the government would have. Now, them getting access to it, that would be a problem. I could see that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That being a thing where it's if they have unadulterated access to that. But no, it'd be much more lucrative for the company. And the company actually asks your consent to participate in things like research and a different but not to say that if you say no, they're not going to do it on the sly or something. But yes, my information is out there. But I mean, again, it's also your information is out there if you've also committed a crime. Or if when you were a child. I don't know if you ever had this happen, but I feel like I remember my parents getting me fingerprinted.
Oh, dude, I
stuff,
feel like as a
saying?
kid, I got fingerprinted constantly.
Yeah.
Just hey, look how cool this is. This is how they do it at the police station. And I feel like I did it 9 times as a kid.
So there's other reason why that stuff's out there.
Yeah.
But yeah. The other thing, I guess there's no other thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
It's exciting stuff. I never did it.
Your dad did.
My family members did, yeah, and I found out I was Scottish, so that's exciting. Yeah. You might learn something
Didn't
like
he
that.
think he was
German?
Yeah.
Just, I guess, never asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Crazy stuff. You know what I did find out, or we might have found out from 23andMe?
What?
Or Ancestry.com or whatever?
Yeah.
That one of my grandfathers, maybe, was leading a double life.
Oh, yeah, you told me about this. Yeah,
or was maybe Ancestry.com just got 2 guys with the same name confused.
Yeah.
Or maybe my grandfather was a Frank Abagnale Jr. type.
Yeah.
Who was a con man, conning a bunch of people.
Yeah, that's a good segue. So this part, I suppose, you should just cut. But Eating Soup Alone is a podcast hosted by me, Christopher Crumley, and co-hosted by Nicholas Johnson. We try our best to ramble incoherently about a handful of movies at least once a week.
Okay, hey, sorry for
now that we're steaming, boiling mad.
Yeah, hey, sorry for that weird cut, but, a presidential election just happened, so we had to yell in agreement at each other for 24 minutes.
Yeah.
just a quick recap. Fuck Joe Biden. Not Joe Biden. Joe Biden, you're fine. You're an old man. Fuck Joe Rogan. Fuck Theo Vaughn. Fuck Kill Tony. Fuck, fuck all those people.
Yeah. And hey, I've laughed at some Kill Tony. I can't even lie. But
we're the only good ethical podcast that exists. So keep listening to this. Chris, did you like Catch Me If You Can?
I have mixed feelings on Catch Me If You Can.
Okay.
What's your history?
Catch Me If You Can is one of those movies that I would see on like FX.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's one of those movies where I'd be like, oh, cool, I'm gonna watch this scene.
Yeah.
Oh, right, I like this one too. And then it's just like, oh, 3 hours have passed. I've just been sitting here and I've watched all of Catch Me If You Can. But not as good as I remember watching it.
No, yeah.
The other day.
It's got that like revolutionary like road kind of feel to it. Like, you know what I'm saying, that movie?
Yeah.
Like just that thing of like that like 2000s, like it felt like The Notebook.
Absolutely. This movie is extremely 2002. Yeah.
Yeah, but it just seems like not in a bad way. This is not. I don't mean this as like a negative. I'm using this descriptively speaking. It just felt like like a 2000s like feel good. You know, you go.
Absolutely.
You watch it. You smile at the end. You know. And hey, perhaps something the world could use more of.
Absolutely. But I mean,
I just feel like movies are generally darker. Oh,
absolutely.
Everything is horrifically.
Because we don't let Steven Spielberg make that many movies anymore.
Yeah. Let's lighten it up again, you know?
Absolutely.
I want to see a Gremlins. I want to see a Back to the Future. I want to see a Catch Me If You Can.
Absolutely.
No more Moonfall, District 9,
District
Soylent
10.
Green. But anyways,
this movie directed by Steven Spielberg,
Yeah.
screenplay by Jeff Nathanson, based on Catch Me If You Can by Frank Abagnale Jr.
Right.
Starring Leo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, Christopher Walken, Martin
Yeah.
Sheen. It's one of my notes.
Studded.
It's insane that so many people are in this movie for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I was having a blast seeing all those guys. They were enjoyable.
It was great. I mean, the older I get, the more I appreciate a Steven Spielberg movie. There's just so many, a few times in this movie where I'd be like, oh wow, what
Little
a fucking...
flourishes.
I notice it most in Spielberg movies, and I think it's what he's best at, is like when one continuous shot is a wide shot, then a medium shot, then a close-up on like 3 different things. The one that stands out in my mind specifically is when they show up to his wedding.
Yeah.
And he like jumps out the window.
Yeah.
And then Tom Hanks enters that room and she's standing in there with the money.
Yeah.
It's him, Tom Hanks, it's on him, and then he goes in the door, and then it like kind of leaves him, and like you see his shadow against the wall, and then it turns to her standing against the wall next to a mirror, and it's just like, oh, you just got so much information out of that one sweeping shot that lasted a few seconds.
Yeah.
So amazed by it. And also, I didn't realize until watching this one, I think now that I have seen The Fabelmans, I would like to go back and watch all of Steven Spielberg's movies. Because immediately in my notes, I wrote, called his mom a bombshell, Fabelmans. Mom cooking dad, Fabelmans. Like, there's so many things in this where I'm just like, oh, this is The Fabelmans. This is The Fabelmans. This is The Fabelmans.
Yeah.
Because I'm always reading about the real Frank Abagnale Jr.
Yeah.
His dad, not a con man. Very straight, like this.
No, top, bottom, none of this happened.
Yeah, that's the funniest
all.
thing I read in the trivia about it, is that like in 2021, some people are like, oh yeah, we try to corroborate all the stuff in this book. It's all made up.
Yeah, even in like 81, on the Wikipedia, I remember reading a quote from him, because he was like gonna speak at a college, but then the college basically said like that someone had informed them that the only con he had really pulled was like this. Basically, it was him quoting the quote, and he was just saying like, he was like, yeah. That person basically told me that I was the only reason why I'd be the greatest con man is because I made millions of dollars off of convincing people I was the greatest con man.
Yeah, and Chris, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
get him. But also at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, if a guy's telling you he's the world's greatest con man, you don't really believe.
That's what I was gonna say.
And it's got a mystique to him, yeah.
Excuse me. This is exactly why Donald Trump is president, because this guy just said, "Hey, I was James Bond," and everybody went like, "Dude, that's so fucking cool. Here's a bunch of money for so long."
Exactly. And
like the whole time I was watching that movie, and I was trying to enjoy it because I was like, whatever, divorce it from that. It's a yarn someone weaved. I'm gonna enjoy the yarn, but like at every turn, I was like, this is so clearly like a dude being like, yeah, and then I had a fucking 10-inch dick. Like at every turn, he's just cooler. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? He's just cooler. It's just his swagger. That like he's like, man, he's cornered like a rat by the FBI, but this guy's got swag.
And that's why they had
The
to,
whole movie is this guy's got swag.
Yeah, that's why they had to add in the Christopher Walken dad and the fucking the back and forth with him not wanting to do it anymore and calling the FBI and being like, I don't want to do this. They had to add all that stuff in because I guarantee the book he's just like, and then I fucked.
Exactly.
And then I fucked her so hard, man.
Yeah.
And also Steven Spielberg, similar to Spielberg. What a beautiful man. I love him for the last 2 seconds of this movie when it gets the wrap up of like he went on to be like, the head of check fraud and yada yada.
Yeah.
And at the end, Frank and Carl still friends to this day.
Yeah.
Carl Hannity
didn't exist.
Not a real person.
Yeah.
So fucking funny to have it with still friends to this day.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But yeah. I did read a couple of quotes of like him being cross-examined throughout the years and just like at one point claiming to have a photographic memory, but then when being pressed about certain details, him being like, some things happened so long ago, you don't even know what the hell you did. And it's like, okay, well, that's not a photographic memory, but all right.
Yeah.
Same thing with like, with some criticism, the way that he tried to brush some of it off was just being like, yeah, the movie exaggerated what I did. I might have pretended to be a doctor for 2 days. They made it like I was a doctor for a year or something. And it's like,
yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay. Again, I'll say it again. This is why Donald Trump was president.
Yeah, and watching this movie, there are a lot of points where it's just like, well, you can't just pretend to be a doctor for that long. Somebody would get you. But this movie does.
Then the movie will be like he's sitting there eating popcorn watching a doctor movie, and that's how he's getting his doctor
exactly.
information.
But it also like sets up earlier where everybody in the world is just like, oh my god, you're a pilot? Can I have your autograph?
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh yeah, people in 1965, they would believe anything. Yeah.
It also reminds me of one of my favorite scenes in Peep Show. There's a episode where he has like fallen in love with a lady at like a shoe store. Then he finds out that she's like a college student attending school like an hour away or something. And his best friend Jeremy happens to be going to that school to play a show. So the main character Mark or whatever like hitches a ride with Jeremy out to the school, and he pretends to be a student to like try to like woo her. Mm-hmm. And there's a scene where he goes into her class, and it's a small class because it's like a graduate program. There's only like 5 or 6 people, and the teacher is initially like, what are you doing in here? And he just makes up like a bad but semi-believable lie where he's like, oh, I had a class at West Cranbridge with Miss Williams, but she passed away and I moved, so she transferred to that school, had me transferred to this class now. And he's like, very well then. And he goes, in his inner monologue, he's just like, holy shit, I lied and he just believed me. Is all of life just an adult walking into a room and saying a thing, and then people just believe them?
That's his whole movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Except he's not an adult. He's every time this movie, like when he's talking to Amy Adams and she has braces in the flirt and stuff like that, I'm like, ugh. And then I'm like, oh right, he's 17 years old.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's like one of the biggest like, I got a 10-inch dick thing, where like the whole movie's supposed to be a 17-year-old that's outsmarting the FBI.
Yeah, and I saw I saw some like it's someone wrote it in like the IMDb trivia where it's just like Frank Abagnale Jr., the real one, at 17 years old, looked like he could pass for 27, and it's so funny that Leonardo DiCaprio was cast in this movie because at 30 years old he could pass for 17.
That's funny. Yeah.
But there is just something about it. Like part of me wishes like the movie got more into like him lying all the time, being really sad. And they kind of give you that with his dad. Yeah. Where he's just like constantly in trouble with the IRS and stuff like that. And but not in a divorced mom and stuff like that. But there is just something about, him teaching his own French class. Yeah. Or when Tom Hanks comes into his hotel room and he pretends to be the Secret Service. Yeah. When he's like almost caught and then is just really quickly coming up with a new lie and gets out of it. Yeah. I just love that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. For some reason, I'm just like, oh, this is so fun. I don't know. I just love it.
Yeah. 2 things. One is, I maybe I'm putting this in there, but I feel like there's a twinge of sadness for me that I'm choosing to read into it. I don't know if it's like explicitly there, but like, I feel like he lies to his dad so much, and I think his dad knows he's lying.
Oh, I think, yeah.
And And so like that's why I love that scene where like, you know, he's like talking to his dad about like the cool shit going on, and he's like, the FBI is like after you or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like such a nice like moment of just like, yeah, I know everything you say to me is like a lie. I know that you're like out there doing some shit.
I love it connecting to at the beginning when he gets caught teaching his French class.
Yeah.
They're talking to his parents, and then his parents come out, and his mom looks at him all mean, and then she walks away, and then Christopher Walken looks at him and like gives him a little smile, like, Jesus Christ, dude, nice job.
Yeah.
I like that continues into a sad way in that conversation you were just talking about, where he tells him the FBI is after him. He's like, it's going to be over soon, Dad. Okay? And his dad goes, you can't stop. Like, his dad very much so is just like, dude, you are so good at this. You have to keep doing it.
It reminds me of the Fablemans also. Like, I'm thinking of that scene of, like, them, like, dancing, like, him watching his parents dance, and, like, how clear it is that, again, you get just a hint of the Fablemans of, like, just his dad clearly being over the moon with the mom, but the mom just is not really into it. You know?
And the beginning's just like, hey, son, we fuck. I love that. Also, I love that little story. Chris, can you imagine being in World War II?
Yeah.
Going to France, just bringing just a French baddie back with you and marrying her? That's crazy.
Big flex, huge flex.
Huge flex.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he starts, like, I remember seeing this, like, maybe you watched it at the house, but there's a part of this movie that's just burned into my head, which is, like, the bathtub boiling the logo off the planes to put on the checks and stuff. And, you know, he lies his way into being, like, he never actually is explicitly, like, flying, it doesn't seem like, but he's at least posing as one to fly around totally free without ever actually having to do it. Same thing with, you know, there's a point where he, you know, pretends to be a doctor. He meets the girl with the braces, and then, you know, her dad can tell that he's lying, Martin Sheen, and then he passes the bar by studying for 2 weeks. He reveals later.
Love that.
Yeah. And, I like, it's also just a treat. Anytime Tom Hanks is in any movie, it's just such a treat.
He's so good.
Yeah, I love watching that man. He deserves to be up there
the
on
first
the big silver screen.
I don't know, half an hour. First few scenes with Tom Hanks, I was just like, okay, not your best, Tom, but like as the movie goes on, and he's like when he first calls him on Christmas, and hangs up his, I love my job, and then he just like is happily typing and stuff like that, and the whole time where he's just like, seriously, tell me, how'd you pass the bar? I'm just like, God damn it, I love Tom Hanks. He's so good in everything. Also, not to throw you off track, but can I review another movie inside of this?
Sure.
Talk about this movie real quick. You ever seen Hacksaw Ridge?
No.
Andrew Garfield World War II movie?
No.
He's a medic. I got somebody, I was hanging out with somebody, and they were like, this movie's really good, we should watch it, and we did. World War II, Andrew Garfield plays, much like this movie, a real-life person, whose name I can't remember, but he really wants to join the war, but he's like a certain type of Christian where he's just like, I won't touch a gun. He's like, I just want to be a medic. I just want to help people. I won't take a life. I won't even pick up a gun. And he's just like, everybody's just super against him. Boot camp is really tough. His drill sergeant is Vince Vaughn, which is a lot of fun.
Love Vince Vaughn, yeah.
And they just like are just like, everybody's just beating the shit out of him because they're just trying to get him to leave because they're like, oh fuck, legally we have to let him be here and not touch a gun if he doesn't want to. But everyone's like, he's gonna get us killed, yada yada. And then they go to Hacksaw Ridge out in wherever, and then he saves everybody.
Yeah.
It's just a brutal battle, but he manages to save everybody without touching a gun. And there's so many shots like during the fight, the war scenes, that are like really like beautiful. It's like beautiful shots of American soldiers just running and blowing Japanese guys apart and stuff like that. I'm like, it feels really fucking propaganda-y. And
absolutely, yeah.
And I don't love it. And then the movie ended.
That's how I felt
like,
about Fury.
Yeah.
I like Fury all the way up until like the very end. They go like over the top, like if Quentin Tarantino had to make American propaganda during World War II is how the last act feels to me. It's just like so like heroic and like an American soldier do it like the unthinkable and stuff. I was like, holy shit, what am I watching?
And so the movie ends, they show you some pictures of like the real guy and him talking and yada yada. And then a big title card pops up that says directed by Mel Gibson. And I went, oh, okay.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn. I just saw a clip of Justin Long talking about doing dodgeball.
Yeah.
And it was like him talking about like getting concussed while like the scene of like the getting hit by the, you know, the balls or whatever. He was like, he's like, I remember shooting that like for like 10, 20 minutes or whatever. Like I'm just getting pelted by these fucking dodgeballs or whatever. I remember immediately after Vince Vaughn came in to do his or whatever, and like one hit him in the chest, and he was like, "Ow, that's pretty hard. We're gonna have to like turn that down. That is way too much." There.
Oh, that's good.
You know? But anyways, back to this film. I would say it's generally enjoyable. And it's a fun romp, and I do love following him around and having a good time. But was super deflating to find out that it was all a con, because I for years it's been on my list, but I usually pitch it to other folks as like just being like, yeah, it's this guy who like lied his way into like being like a pilot and like a doctor and like got away with it. It's a true story. And now, much like The Conjuring, I'm like, oh man, Ed and Lorraine Warren were liars the whole time.
No.
So exactly that kind of a thing. I just feel a bit embarrassed, because like for years I've just been like, I just believed that there was a real James Bond is what I'm saying to you. Like for years I'd never seen the movie or looked into it, and I just was going off of like the fact that like, oh, I know Nick likes Catch Me If You Can, and from what I hear, that's a true story. And now, I'm deflated, is what I'm trying. That's why I'm conflicted with the movie, because like I really put it out of my mind while I was watching, but when I wasn't watching, because I split it into 2 watches, I did so much reading, and then I tried to come back with like clean slate. I just enjoyed the film, and I did enjoy the film. It's very fun, but it's so deflating to know that for like the last like 8 years, I believed that there was a Superman.
Yeah, and like, let's see, the real Frank Abagnale Jr.
He's ugly.
76 years old. Who gives a fuck? Let him get away with it. Let him keep.
It's like the I've got doubles on the Barracuda guy.
Exactly.
Let this sad old pathetic man have this.
Yeah, let the world have a little magic in it. All right.
Yeah, I hear you.
So what that he's the Hannibal Lecter of check fraud? Let him do it. Who gives a shit?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
I do like the scene where he's in, they take him out of prison to be like, what's up with this check? And he's like, not real. No serrated edge. I can tell. Plus, this smells like blank and not blank. And, I can feel this. It's not, this is It's cool. It's cool.
I love when Tom Hanks cons him.
Yeah.
I really wanted to see him getting to France and him finding that printing press and stuff like that. But this movie's already way too long. But I was like, that would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
But God, I just love that, where he's just like, you're not lying to me?
Yeah.
He's like, Frank, if you go out there, they will kill you.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you're serious, it's not just you here?
Yeah.
And he gets, I just love that. Also, fun fact, when he goes out and then those cops do show up, the French cop that's arresting him is a real Frank.
Oh.
Fun.
Yeah.
And,
hey, I wish they'd make a movie off of something I lied about. It's really an accomplishment. He truly is. I will say it. The world's greatest con man.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man.
Not for all the shit he lied about, but for the fact that he lied about all that shit. And people believed it enough that they made a book and a movie about it. And also he got to speak all the time at colleges, like all the time. And they paid him for it.
He's absolutely a millionaire. Like, has to be a multimillionaire. Yeah, sure. Good on him. Yeah. Good on him. That's
a good grift.
That's the world's greatest con man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. Yeah, let's leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have any control over anybody's life. So yeah, he's the world's greatest con man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I would say, golly, it's a tough one. I'm gonna say C+.
I'm gonna give it a B-.
B-, okay. You got a pen?
Hard B. I'm gonna give it a hard B.
You wanna write that down?
Like a marker, yeah.
Okay. Wow. C+, that's a nice marker. B-. Catch.
And then, after Catch Me If You Can.
Well, before for me. I watched before.
I watched it after. We watched The Producers.
1967?
Yes, I thought it would be a real funny bit, and I almost watched the 2005 version because I thought that would be funny.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
No, yeah. I can't imagine that being as pleasant, personally.
But it has a lower rating everywhere that I can see, but it's there's the real Broadway version of this movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Mel Brooks is one of 21 people who have actually EGOT'd.
Yeah.
Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony.
And that thing
and
was
he's 96. So.
Lauded and people loved it, and that's what the 2005 movie is. It's
adaptation of the
Nathan Lane and Ferris Bueller. They do it on Broadway. They were the big ones. So I don't know. I'd like to check it out one day, but this is. We'll get to your history with it in a second. My history with it is this is one of probably 15 to 20 movies that when I met you, you were like, you gotta watch this movie, and I went, I'll get around to it. And then 7 years later, I watch it and I go, fuck, I should have got to this 7 years ago. This movie is so good, Chris.
It is so pleasant. It's, my history with it is I remember watching it. I remember watching it. God damn, it was probably like maybe 2017 or so, and I don't know why, but I was getting like chronic bronchitis. I spent like an entire winter just getting bronchitis over and over again. I even got it like on Thanksgiving night. I was like coughing up blood. One of my lungs like collapsed a little bit or something like that. And the girl I was dating at the time, I remember sitting in this back room, which would eventually be your room.
No.
And her like
the sick ward was my room.
Yeah, her ex stepdad had given me like an old 70-inch TV.
Mm-hmm.
So it was huge, fucking awesome, but it was old, so it was a little bit thicker, and obviously not like HD or anything like that.
Yeah.
And also because of the bronchitis thing, I remember her mom had like lent us like some kind of like breathing machine or whatever. So I'd just be in the back like huffing on this breathing machine, watching the producers back to back on this 70-inch TV.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, so do I. It's super cozy, wintertime, dark. But generally, my relationship with Mel Brooks is that I find him so pleasant and carefree and innocent. And it's such a joyous experience, in my opinion, to watch a Mel Brooks film. I feel like there's just you can't watch it and not have a big smile on your face. I mean, same thing with, Gene Wilder, and the pairing of those two are just, it's as astronomical. So, this is, other than being in Bonnie and Clyde for a short scene or two, this is Gene Wilder's like big screen basic debut, basically. And this is also Mel Brooks's silver screen debut. This is his first movie. It's my understanding, I don't remember the order exactly, but it was like my understanding that he had like either written this as like a book or a play, and his agent told him like this is not going to get made, so he turned it into the other. Yeah. And then they were still like, this is not going to get made, and so then kind of like adaptation, he made this movie because initially he was trying to make like Springtime for Hitler. He was actually trying to make that, because like I've heard him talk about it before, where like he was like my goal as a comedian was like in the Jewish community, it was still kind of like, he didn't say this necessarily with this terminology because I'm using modern terminology, but he was basically talking about like Hitler was kind of like Voldemort. You still didn't necessarily say his name. So he's like, what I wanted to do was pants Hitler. I wanted to take all that power from him. And so it's funny to me that like adaptation of the movie becomes about these guys trying to get Springtime for Hitler made, right? Yeah. Like I said, it's I think it's such an interesting window into Mel Brooks, and being that I believe it's his only film that's not like an outright like parody of like a genre. It's a comedy, but it's its own independent thing, and I find that so neat and so unique and so fascinating. And I also think it might have won like an Academy Award, or was that Annie Hall? I can't remember. Did this win an award?
Let me see.
Which is not common for comedies. Comedies do not often win.
He won a Best Screenplay.
There you go. Yeah, so that's really rare for comedy. Comedies are genuinely are one of the least represented at this. So that's really cool. It's very impressive.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I just adore this movie. I think of it as a very comforting film. Yeah. Especially the period. We'll get into it when we talk about the movie, but that period where he like takes Leo Bloom out on the town to like convince him to get a taste for life. Yeah. That's such a great feel good part of it. And I will say another thing, like there's something so pleasing about even the characters' names. Like Max Bialystock, I love it. And Leo Bloom, that's like great. Those are such good names. Like I know this is insane, and I'm sorry if I'm off the rails, but like I literally like goose pimples when those names happen, because like those are pleasing names. They're nice to say. Leo Bloom, Max Bialystock.
Max Bialystock's actor's name is Zero.
Zero Mosel.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Such a sick first name.
I've always been so interested in Zero Mosel. I don't know anything about him, but he reminds me, like when I hear stories, and no disrespect to Zero Mosel, but when I hear stories of who Aleister Crowley was and how he behaved, I think of Max Bialystock. Yeah. That's what I think of Alex. Because he was just a hedonist, a rich asshole who inherited a bunch of money from his parents and then just fucking had orgies and climbed mountains, which is cool, but then he was just a huge dick and a racist at the same time. So it's like, well, you brought that down. You kind of, you had that cool thing going for you where it's like, yeah, you inherited your parents' money and all you did with it was fucking climb mountains. Pretty cool. But then you also had to be racist and a huge asshole. So actually, I personally do not like Aleister Crowley. I think he's super overrated. I think he's a chump. I've read most of what he has to offer the world, and I think it amounts to Nothing. Poop.
Got a cool
Garbage.
Ozzy Osbourne song out of it, and that's about it.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of people were obsessed and interested in him. I mean, I think was it like Led Zeppelin or was it Black Sabbath that like literally moved into his house to write a record at one point? Like, or, I don't know if they rented it or they were just like what it was, but there was like an old hard rock band. It's either the Sabbath or Zeppelin, one of the two. Like lived in Crowley's house for a little bit while they were writing one of their records. People have been obsessed with Aleister Crowley for a long time, which I just don't understand. Like I literally spent a couple of years. Now, don't get me wrong, I haven't delved crazy deep into like his more magical writings and stuff, but as far as like being a like prose author, I've read his short stories and stuff like that, and just
Really,
burn it all, garbage. Yeah, just not entertaining in the latest. But the producers, 1967.
I read that the Springtime for Hitler song, as well as Sand Song, Prisoners in Love or something like that.
Yeah, Prisoners in Love. Yeah.
Mel Brooks didn't play an instrument, doesn't know how music works, so he hummed it into a tape recorder and gave it to a musician to transpose.
Nice, yeah.
And then that's how he did the entire Broadway play.
That's so good.
That's so fucking funny.
Yeah. Springtime for Hitler is so funny.
I adored this movie. I adore every Mel Gibson. Not every. I think I made it very clear during the last movie. I do not enjoy Mel Gibson films. I enjoy every Mel Brooks movie that I've seen.
Yeah, Mel Brooks, yes.
I just don't know where to start with what I like so much about this movie. First note, just don't want to forget it. Studio Canal has the best title card I've ever seen. Just those like lights coming in, like kind of like I was just like, oh, this has to be like a new logo for a production company that they just slapped on the front of this movie for this release or whatever. But I don't think it is. It's just the coolest looking shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I was on the fence about watching this. Not like I had a choice, but I was just like, okay, I'll watch the producers. And then when it immediately starts with him fucking old ladies, I was just like, I'm in. This is good.
Yeah.
And then, like, I'm really enjoying that. And I love all of his hairs from the back of his head fucking swooped forward. It's so
he looks
funny.
so gross. He looks like Dennis Quaid in the Substance Levels. Gross.
Absolutely, because it's like it's 1960 whatever.
Yeah, like when he throws the coffee on the dirty window and then rubs it with his ascot. I'm like, oh, you horribly gross man.
And it's the 60s, so like light bulb technology isn't great yet. So it's 1 million degrees, and so everybody's just all
so
wet.
Sweaty.
And in the meantime, he's wearing all these clothes, has his hair combed to the front of his head, and he just did the thing with the coffee. I was just like, I'm so uncomfortable. This is so gross. But then Gene Wilder shows up.
Yeah.
And
I'm hysterical. I'm wet. And I'm in pain.
I texted you after a while.
I fell on my keys.
Ooh, I fell on my keys. I laughed for like 20 minutes at that. And I don't know why, but this is maybe the first time it hit me. I don't think anything that I've experienced is as timeless as how funny Gene Wilder is.
Yes.
I think Gene Wilder is 2024
transcendently funny. Yeah.
I think you could put 20-year-old Gene Wilder in a movie today and it would work really well.
Yeah.
Like he's just so like, and just like he knows when to use it.
Yeah. He knows when to razzle. He knows when to dazzle.
It's the like cheesy cliche I know, but like the word that came to my mind was fearless.
Yeah.
He's pretty.
He does have such a confidence. Like he knows what he's doing is the right thing, and you can tell that he knows he's doing the right thing.
He's so like buttoned up and straight.
Sure.
Like, he's quote unquote the straight man at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
And they're having that argument back and forth or whatever, and he's like, he's still funny, but he's like keeping it together.
Yeah.
But as soon as he pulls that blanket out of his back pocket, the faces that he's making, I'm like, that is so fucking funny, man. That's when I was just like, oh, that's fearless. Like that man is not afraid of anything. Like he's just pitch perfect. So fucking good.
Hug me or touch me, hug me, touch me, or touch me, kiss me, whatever. He's looking for all the old ladies in the so he can swap it out.
And I don't know why, cardboard belt made me laugh very hard.
Oh yeah, I love when he's got the rant. He does so many grand rants that are great. He's like the Frank Abagnale of being Jeff Winger.
Yeah.
He's giving these like Jeff Winger rousing speeches, but yeah, he's like Max Bialystock. It used to command respect. 15 shows on Broadway. That used to carry some weight. Now look at me. I can barely afford my rent. I'm sleeping with old ladies. I got a cardboard belt. And you're hook, line, and sinker. You feel bad for this man, even though he's a fat asshole. I love when Gene snaps at him, and he's just like, Fat, fatty, you big fat fatty.
I love, yes,
And then later on, when he's like, I'm sorry that I called you fat.
Yeah. I love, like, it's the third rant that he's on in their first meeting, the first quote unquote scene of this movie. He says the cardboard belt thing again and looks down and goes, "Oh, I already did."
That's very good. Yeah. Yeah.
And like it's one of those movies where like it happens with every comedy that we watch, or where I try to write down every joke that really gets me.
Yeah.
It's just, again, one of the situations I just had to stop at some point.
Yeah.
Because it was just
hand was cramping up.
I love that. I think I feel this way about all Mel Brooks movies. There's the jokes that come from the movie about the situation that these two men who are trying to commit this fraud,
situational comedy,
are getting themselves into. But I also love that sometimes the joke is elevator too small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I love when he's like, there's that montage of him fucking old ladies to get their money.
Yeah. I love when it's like he gets in that Zero Moselle gets in that taxi, and Gene Wilder tries to get in with him, and he's like, oh no. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, you're gonna see very little of Max Bialystock over the next couple of days. A lot of little old ladies to go fuck.
I love when he goes to that one old woman's house and he rings the buzzer.
Yeah.
And she goes, hello. He goes, it's Max Bialystock. And she goes, oh, I thought it was a burglar.
Yeah.
Which
and then the click, ching, ching,
it's
ching, ching.
Perfect old lady comedy.
Yeah,
because it's like, why would a burglar ring the doorbell?
So good.
And then all the locks. It's so good.
I do love when he gets paid by that old lady in the hallway, and the guy grabs it, and he's like, "He who signs the lease must pay the rent." And he's like, "God smite him," or whatever. He's like, "Don't listen to him." It's so good.
It's great.
So good. But yeah, you're right. I thought you were a burglar. Hilarious. But yeah, it transitions into like Leo Bloom is sitting there doing the books, and he's basically like, ahem. And he's like, why are you making these cartoonish noises?
Cough, cough.
Yeah, and he basically says, like, yeah, there's $2,000 missing. And he's like, make it disappear, blah, 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 blah. And then as he's cooking the books, he's basically like, it suddenly struck me that if you raise a bunch of money, blah, 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 you could pull off. And he's like, oh, this scheme. And he's like, what scheme? And he's like, the scheme. He's like, no scheme. And we transition, like I said, one of my favorite parts, which is, they're sitting in that boat, and Gene Wilder has his feet in the water, and he's like, I'm just so nervous. What if somebody sees me from the office or whatever? And he's like, then you'll have to ask yourself, what are they doing? And they're not going to spill on you because they're also playing hooky. And he's like, oh, yeah. And it culminates with him on that. It's a beautiful shot. I love the fountain that turns on as soon as he's like, I'm Leo Bloom. And he's basically like, I want my slice of the pie. And he's like, running around the fountain as he goes like, I'll do it. And it's such a crescendo. It's such a beautiful, there is like a, this movie in terms of like how restricted to scene it is. Like setting, I mean, the settings. It's not a very they really do just set up a room and let these people chew up the scenery. Like it plays like a play, which I think is a charming thing about this film. Whereas we did talk about the white whale, and I said that was like a problem with the whale is that it felt like something meant for the stage that had been translated to film.
Yes.
I mean to say that this one, like, I can just see how easily it could be made a play. But I just wanted to point that out, that thing of like, it's just so well crafted that, like a play, all you have to do is set up Gene Wilder and Zero Moselle in a room, and they're just gonna chew it up. Yeah. But the reason why I bring this up at all is because like that feels like that specifically feels like a classic like theater act break. Like when I'm watching Mel Brooks, I remember we talked a bit about like when we were talking about Airplane, about how influential the style of comedy was on something like Family Guy.
Yeah.
But from like a episode structure standpoint, I think of like I do think of very like theatrical Broadway-ish type stuff when I think of Family Guy. I think of it having very like clear and structured like act breaks and stuff like that, and like that's one of those moments that like yeah. But what I'm trying to say really, I guess, is there is that comforting aspect of the movie where it feels like there are these moments where it's like you could throw a commercial right there. I don't know why, but it just feels like TV to me. Where I'm just like I'm watching. It almost feels like I'm watching Family Guy or something like that. But it's very carefree. It's like I said, it just has such a like childish and pleasant, carefree thing about it, which is such a success of comedy. I even feel like when I'm watching Detroiters or like I Think You Should Leave, like I think that's like a modern like thing that, you know, that I feel like that's a beautiful place for comedy to come from, and a timeless place for comedy to come from, is like just that childlike innocent and wonder, you know.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But anyway, so we get that, and then they go into like script mode, or they're reading the scripts or whatever, and some funny gags in there. He's like, "I read this one this morning."
Yeah.
And when he finally finds Springtime for Hitler, he's like, "Oh my God, you know, I've struck gold," or whatever. They go and find the guy who played the inspector in Young Frankenstein. What's his name? The German guy.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can find that for you. Hello.
But it's like Kenneth Mars, I think. And he's basically playing what would have probably been semi, you know, plausible at the time. It's a guy who was a German soldier and had snuck away to America to avoid prosecution,
but also still dresses in his Nazi uniform in America.
Yeah, and I love that when he starts like ranting and shit like that, and you know, yeah, I mean, they're just sitting there and like having to listen to it and stuff. And, oh my God! Actually, one of the biggest laughs for me is when they're walking down the street with the Nazi armbands on, and Gene Wilder is covered him. He's like, "Max, I don't feel comfortable wearing the armband," and they're like, "All right, fine, we can take the armbands off." It's so fucking funny because I just love, like, it's such a good visual gag of like Gene Wilder holding his.
Yeah,
and you don't even see the Nazi swastika; you can just see the red, and you know that they're so spineless and slimy that they're like trying to appease this guy to the point of, despite like, you know, grabbing that. So funny, it's crazy funny. They throw it away and they spit on it. You know,
I was skipping to the end for a second. I do love that at the end, the Nazi just becomes part of the game.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's part of the crew. It's like very It's Always Sunny in that regard.
Yeah,
like they've been through some shit, some other friends, you know.
Yeah.
And I do miss that aspect of like, it is a little bit lacking in principles, and like it obviously is not like something to like idolize. I understand that, but I do miss that. That seems like an old concept of just like, yeah, differences aside, we've been through some shit.
Yeah.
Whatever. My good friend's a fucking Nazi. You know, I feel like that is like an old school thing that used to happen. I feel like you just be like, yeah, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer's my fucking neighbor or whatever, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like you just used to be able to bridge differences,
but also
so much better.
It does seem like kind of a modern thing as well. Like
I don't think so.
Watching this movie, I was just like, oh man, it's really refreshing to see a room full of people all go, I hate Nazis, you know? Anyway.
But yeah, we get into that segment, and then they do the thing where like they basically, again, like at the end he says it. He's like, I picked the wrong script. I picked the wrong director. I picked the wrong actors. What happened? Where did I go right? You know. They get the director, which is a spot of like some dated comedy where he's like a gay cross-dressing guy, and some of the, you know, I don't think it is ever horribly malicious or super offensive, but it is inherently like a little like the comedy just comes from like, whoa, this is odd. So I'm not trying to defend it, but it could have been way worse.
Yeah, because
it could have been way worse.
I like I said earlier, the joke is elevator too small, but then it's also at the same time
elevator too small and a gay guy.
Guy might be gay, yeah.
Right.
But the one bit I do like, because I mean, I guess the butt of the joke is the man in the dress.
Sure.
But it also just, I guess in 2024, it played to me like Gene Wilder is the ignorant one.
Right. When he's like, Max, he's in a dress.
But when he's just like, how do you think I look or whatever, yada yada, and Gene Wilder just goes, where are you going to keep your wallet? That got me. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything else is like, okay, yeah, we get it.
Yeah. Same thing with like the secretary. It's a little bit dated and sexist, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely, but I mean, like what we're saying for 1967
could have been way fucking worse.
Yes, this is
because it was really just like them being like, "I have money, so I got a hot secretary." It really doesn't go any farther than that.
In 1967, this is borderline woke. Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah,
yeah.
And yeah, so then we get into the
auditions.
The auditions, yeah, that's one of my favorite gags. Definitely is the like, all right, split up. I need you guys to separate between singing Hitlers and dancing Hitlers. We're only seeing singing Hitlers today. Dancing Hitlers, go home. Which is so funny because there's one guy who's not even wearing like a fucking mustache. He's just flexing on stage.
It's so funny.
And then I love when they're prancing away. Like some of the Hitlers are literally prancing.
Yeah.
So good.
This part, if I'm being honest,
yeah,
was losing me. Like the Hitlers over and over again, singing a silly song. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then Lorenzo comes out. I was like, okay, this is good.
Yeah.
And like he kept doing it. I was just like, why isn't this Steve Martin? Like this guy looks like Steve Martin. But then as it was going on, I was just like, oh, I love Dick Shawn. Yeah. This guy's so good. And I was just like, how come I've never seen Dick Shawn in anything else? Do you know the story of Dick Shawn?
No.
I'm gonna read you an article from the Los Angeles Times from April 18th,
Was it crime?
1987. Comedian Dick Shawn died at Scripps Memorial Hospital in La Jolla Friday night after apparently suffering a heart attack on stage during a performance.
Whoa.
Witnesses said Shawn, 57, was lying on the stage for nearly 5 minutes before the audience realized it was not part of his act and an ambulance was called.
Whoa.
Quote, he literally was probably on stage 5 minutes until it was realized that it was serious.
Wow.
A member of the audience told. Stagehand came out several times and obviously thought it was part of the act. It all blended in very well, Wartell said. There were comments from the audience like, hey, take his wallet.
That's sad.
Finally, a doctor came from back of the wings, felt for his pulse, and realized something had happened. He flipped him over. The audience reaction by then was, boy, this is in bad taste.
Marty Feldman, who played Igor in Young Frankenstein, also died of like a heart attack. He was a guy who, like, I guess generally, like from what people say, lived on a diet of 100 cigarettes a day, meat and black coffee. Like that's all he ate. But generally was considered to be in pretty good health. He was like swimming between islands when he had the heart attack.
Yeah.
And I guess what happened is like they believe that he might have gotten stung by something like a jellyfish or something that basically sent him into cardiac arrest. And between the exhaustion of swimming and generally being someone who doesn't really respect his body, it just sent him. You know, he was 48. I mean, same thing with Rod Serling. Rod Serling, you know, Twilight Zone cigarette enthusiast. Died at like 48 of a heart attack. But anyways, back to this film. Yeah, Lorenzo comes out, and yeah, he is a treat. I mean, yeah, especially like, when the plays actually happen, he's like, "Where's my gobles? I need my gobles, man. Oh, that's my little gobles. Give me some skin. What's going on? What's happening, Daddy?" You know, like,
I would argue that Springtime for Hitler in this movie only works because of him.
Oh, for sure.
It's so he's great. He's great.
Yeah.
I just got into that. He's so good.
Yeah.
I just rest in peace, my man. God, great, just great.
Just great indeed. But yeah, so he auditions. He does that whole like making fun of the Doors psychedelia counterculture thing, in a fun and lighthearted way that I don't think is too mean spirited, and it's pretty apt. And then they, from that point, are we just kind of like right into like opening night? Like we're pretty much through it.
Yeah, everyone comes in. They hate it. I laughed pretty hard when everyone's just like looking at it, shocked.
And everybody's
dancing. There's the one guy, yeah. But I don't know why it really got me when they just unroll a big picture of Hitler. That made me laugh so hard.
Yeah, because like the swastikas come down, the Hitler goes down, and like women dressed as stormtroopers are kicking. Doing,
I don't know why that was like the final nail in the coffin. I was like, all right, this is really funny.
There's some pretty decent jokes in there, like when he's talking to the director, and the director's like, "Oh my god, this thing is so full of historical tidbits," you know. And he's like, "I'm ready to do something serious, you know. No more of this kick, step, kick, step, kick, you know, whatever." And he's like, "But how are we gonna end this thing?" I know it. I'm seeing a line of dancing girls. Kick, step, 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 kick. Immediately contradicts himself. And another thing I was just thinking about is like the time they spend with Kenneth Mars as the Nazi, where like he just starts going on. He's like, the lies that they tell about Sophia. Not many people know this, but he was a wonderful dancer. Like the whole thing is so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, and I love him getting on stage and everybody yelling at him, or him getting hit in the back of the head and it taking a while to register. Yeah, they leave to go have a drink at the bar.
I know it's ABC, simple, basic comedy. Like, the funniest thing that can happen is the exact opposite, but it is genuinely one of the most satisfying failures. Like, the fact that Springtime for Hitler is a hit is such a nice cherry on top of the whole thing for me.
Who's sitting at the bar with them?
I don't know, just some guy. Is he like a famous actor or something?
I thought this, and then I realized in my head, I have no idea at what time this person existed in. But I was like, is that Tom Waits? And I was like, no, is it?
I think Tom Waits was just doing that as a character, like the guy who was just drunk at the bar, like with a hat on. You know what I'm saying? It's like I think like
drunk at a bar with a hat on. I was like,
that's what I'm saying. I think Tom Hanks was like that was such a guy that like it was just a background character in movies because it was such a guy.
Okay.
You know, like, he was doing such a classic American guy, like a type of guy. You would
Okay.
But anyways,
listen, there are a lot of other plays happening right now. Maybe they're not talking about Springtime for Hitler. Did you ever think you'd like a play so much called Springtime for Hitler?
Yeah, I love when they're smoking cigars and drinking. They're like, all right, boys, cover your faces. Yeah.
And then...
oh, yeah, the whole scene in the fucking office. When Kenneth comes in with the gun and stuff like that.
It's the last, second to last note I have written down. That's all happening. They're under the desk.
Yeah.
And the secretary comes in and knocks on the door, and both of them go, come in.
Would you like any coffee? And he's like, yes, ask the man with the gun who is currently shooting at us if he'd like anything.
Yeah, and then I love when they sit down on the couch and talk about it, yada, yada. And Max goes, that's what you have to do.
Kill the actors.
You have to kill the actors.
I was like, no, you can't do this. You can't do this. He's like, Leo, it is us or them. Kill the actors. Kill. And even Kenneth Mars said at one point, it's like, make up your minds. Kill the actors. Don't kill the actors. I'm confused. It's so good. It literally so good.
And then the joke with the fuse, longshore fuse.
Yes, he's like, yes. See, this is exactly an example of smart thinking. I thought it was the quick fuse, and look at this. It is the quick fuse.
Yeah, that's a joke that as soon as it starts,
you know where it's going.
I know exactly where it's going, and it takes so long. But yeah, Kenneth Mars is just so good that I'm in the entire time. It's
yeah, he's great in Young Frankenstein too. And he's like, before we start going around, starting any riots, we should make damn sure that he is following in his father's footsteps. And they're like, what? He's like, footsteps. We should make sure he's following his grandfather's footsteps. And I'm like, but he's just so good. He's like walking around commanding the scene, Genuinely. Rest in peace. I'm sure he's dead too. So rest
absolutely.
in peace.
I don't think anyone. I was thinking about that at the
Mel
beginning.
Brooks is still kicking though.
Crazy. I was thinking about it at the beginning with all those old women. I was just like looking at one of these old ladies and just thinking about like, this is an old woman in 1967.
Yeah.
Like, this woman's been dead longer than I've
it's funny.
been alive, which is crazy.
There's a Daniel Johnston song called Spooky, and it's the opening line is him saying like when you're watching an old movie and you realize everyone in the movie is dead and it's spooky.
Yeah.
But and then the lady at the stoop, she's like, I'm the concierge. My husband used to be the concierge, but now I'm the concierge.
Yeah, there's something about that lady. She's a very like 1967 lady where I'm just like, they just don't make people that look like that anymore.
Folks ain't like that. No.
Anyway, they blow up.
I do.
They're in court.
He gives that big speech where he's like, this is a spineless, selfish man. I've never met anyone more selfish. And then he's like, but before I met this man, I had never sung a song with anybody before. And he just goes on this beautiful speech about how much, he was like, who has he hurt really? Certainly not me. Certainly not me.
And then they go to jail.
Yes, rightfully so.
Is that why Seinfeld ends that way?
I don't know, maybe.
I was thinking about it. I was just like, that's funny that this ends like Seinfeld. And then I was thinking about it. I have to rewatch it. There's a whole season of Curb that is about Larry getting cast in the producers on Broadway.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been you mentioned that, like, oh, this whole season is just the producers. Like, what's happening to
Yeah.
Larry is the producers. And Mel Brooks is a reoccurring character of that season.
Nice.
So I'm like, I got to go back and rewatch that because I'll get it now.
Yeah, he's super pleasant, Mel Brooks. I remember watching an entire Mel Brooks documentary while I was super obsessed with the producers and stuff. And I remember specifically taking my producer's DVD and like my Young Frankenstein DVD and like looking through the special features to watch the like little documentaries on there and stuff like that. And to this day, one of my favorite like outtakes from Young Frankenstein, I've talked about it a million times, is the one where they go down to the secret when he's like, oh, what is this place with all these books and stuff? He's like, it's my grandfather's private library. And then they look at the book and it says like how I did it. But when they get down there, and I love that movie. That's Gene Wilder's favorite movie that he'd ever been in, and it makes sense because he wrote it.
Yeah,
so it's super cool. Love that movie so much.
So good.
But in that scene, one of the first like clues is like they see like they're like violin, and then like Marty Feldman touches it, he's like, and it's still warm, and in the ashtray there's like a cigar, and they're like, and it's still smoldering, and they shot the footage but they couldn't get it in the movie. Gene Wilder is immediately suspicious of Igor because they found him down there, and so he's like, let me smell your breath. And Marty Feldman's kind of odd face gets like right up into Gene Wilder's face, and again, just the perfect timing and everything. He just goes like, and like just the way that like Marty Feldman's jaw like just like drops or whatever. Like everybody, like they were all talking about it in the documentary. They were like, we literally couldn't put it in the movie because like they were like Mel Brooks had taken off his belt so that he could bite it while it happened. It would be a thing where like the camera operator, like thought we had a good take, then we'd be watching it just to see that the fucking camera's moving because the camera guy's laughing. He was
That's
like,
so funny.
they were like, we don't know why, but like we couldn't get a take because nobody could keep a straight face.
That's
Not
so
in front,
funny.
no, nobody in front of the camera, nobody behind the camera. Like we all just couldn't keep a straight
I
face.
love
for a
that.
bit.
That's so good.
And yeah, it's just cool things like that. It just seems like such a cool like crew to run with. Because like I remember for a while on Facebook, like my like what was the banner at the top, your like wallpaper or whatever. It was like a recreation of The Last Supper, but it was like all of them out at dinner. It was like Mel Brooks in the middle, and then there was like Gene Wilder and what is it, Linda Radner or Gilda?
Gilda.
Yeah, Gilda Radner, and like Marty Feldman was there, and Kenneth Mars, and Terry Greer, is that her name? The lady who just passed, who played roll and say hey, and Young Frankenstein. The like
Oh, I don't know.
Terry, what's her name?
Look it up.
Terry
Young
She just passed away though.
Frankenstein.
Rest in peace. Terry Garr is what it is.
Terry
Terry
Garr.
Garr. But it's all of them. Yeah, just like eating out together, and I'm actually going to show you right now because I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But it's such a beautiful picture, and it's part of that whole thing. Like just the general like vibes of that crew. It just seems like such a pleasant.
Fucking hell, Mel Brooks is 98.
Yeah, but it's really poor quality. But yeah, you can see like, oh sorry. There's Marty Feldman, and that's your boy, I think. I think that's Big Sean. There's Terry Garr and Mel Brooks, and there's Gene Wilder and Gilda Radner, and I don't know who that is.
Hell yeah, dude. That's so sick.
Yeah. Or no, that's Kenneth Mars, actually. That's Kenneth Mars, and I told you it was Dick Shawn. That's definitely Kenneth Mars. But anyways, and so what I was saying is like, sorry, this is just becoming us talking about Young Frankenstein. I know we've probably already done it for the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, one of the things they were very adamant about was like Gene Wilder was like, and Mel Brooks were like, we're doing it in black and white, and like no fucking studio wanted to do that. They got told by like so many people, and they were like, the fucking executives were so shocked when we told them we were gonna walk, because like they could not believe that we were just gonna walk away from the deal just because it wouldn't be in black and white and stuff like that. But like we were so adamant that like it had to, like for it to work, it had to be in black and white, And I'm glad they stuck to their guns about that. And the other thing is the put on the Ritz scene. I know we talked about it a million times, but yeah, the fact that Mel Brooks just hated it, and they like literally got into like screaming matches where Gene Wilder was like, "This has to be in the movie. This is the culmination of this character. This is like integral to the idea that this man of science, this educated man, would think that like the way to display to a room full of scientists that his creature that he had created was sophisticated was by making him putting on the Ritz with him. Like it's and again, like I guess later on Mel Brooks conceded and was just like, I see what you're saying.
It's the best part of the movie.
Exactly. Yeah. He was like, he's like, even Mel Brooks talks about it. He's like, oh yeah, he's like, I remember hating it. He's like, I was yelling at Gene Wilder all the time. I was like, why are we gonna put this stupid fucking scene in this movie or whatever? And he's like, and now it's one of my favorite parts of the movie. But, anyways, what are you looking at?
Only 21 people have gotten the EGOT before.
Whoopi Goldberg is one of them.
She is, and this is nothing.
Sure.
shouldn't even be bringing it up.
Sure.
But I find it strange that 4 of them got it when they were 39 years old.
Interesting.
What a strange...
Yeah. Does anybody surprise you on that list?
John Legend.
Ah, yeah, that's surprising, yeah.
But
it's also one of those things where it's, like, not surprising because I feel like it's one of those things that you get if you are, like, a John Legend. Like, if you're just, like, a slightly under-the-radar person who, like...
I think if you're a songwriter, you're most likely...
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're someone who's, like, written songs and, like... Yeah,
Elton John has it.
Exactly, yeah.
What was this?
Like, it sounds like something that, like, Tom Cruise should be getting, but it's really not.
Yeah, no, it's just like, oh, yeah, of course Audrey Hepburn has one. But then, like, the rest of the people are like, yeah, they're mainly, like, songwriters.
Yeah, like, Audrey Hepburn and Mel Brooks are, like, the two people that, like, they seem like they should be on that list, and then everybody else, it's like, oh, yeah, I guess when you think about it, that's the kind of person that would be getting it. But anyways, I am so full of the hot yellow, and I give this movie an A+. I think it's fantastic.
Yes, I'm going to give it an A+ as well.
Oh, wonderful. I like when we agree. What should we do for our next ep? I was thinking 2 things. I was thinking we could finally get back to Bondathon and Saw.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could just start knocking some stuff off of my watch list on freaking Letterboxd. So, like, it'd be cool to watch something like that movie that came out last year, Perfect Days.
Okay. What's a non-competitive EGOT?
I do not know.
Well, James Earl Jones has one.
Rest in peace.
Oh, it counts like honorary awards.
Ah, okay.
If we do not Bondathon, I have to think about it. I won't be able to give you an answer for a movie today because I haven't.
Okay, then I won't commit either if we don't. But do you want to go back to Bondathon and get the ass Saw out of the way, or?
I really don't. If I'm being honest.
I kind of do, just because there's this series of YouTube videos I've been watching called "Could He Afford It," where they tally up the cost of the traps. But we don't have to just because of that. We can put it on hold for a little bit, you know.
Oh, let me see.
What, are you looking up the "Can we afford it" thing?
No, I'm gonna look up what James Bond movie I'd have to watch with it.
Are we even close to being out of the woods with that guy? Okay.
Like, we got 2 left. We got 3 left with Roger Moore. For Your Eyes Only is the next one.
Is it? Have we not watched that one?
Last one we watched was oh no, you're right, we did. Hell yeah, brother. Did we? We're gonna say we did. Our next one would be Octopussy.
Whoa.
And that's just silly.
Whoa. Yeah, it is. I can check my logged films.
Nah, you don't gotta do that. We miss one.
That's very funny.
We could also just check our podcast.
Podcast?
Yeah.
The Spy Who Loved Me, 3 Women, Prey, Julian Donkey Boy, Killing My Second Moonraker, Jigsaw, Frogman, Arsenic and Old Days, Spiral, Curse of Chucky, Child's Play. Maybe I didn't log it. Are you checking? Yeah. Whatever. We'll decide later. We'll announce it later. As far as I'm concerned, I gotta go. That's That Mattress Man.
All right.
If you need more soup, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to our website, eatingsoupalone.com. And until next time,